So this is the DPACC, and I am happy to be working with Renee Kahn, who's my associate director. Just by way of a quick overview of the organizational structure, we have two directors, 4 associate directors, a clinical trialist, and the main function of what we're doing, the heart of it is the cores, which is core 1, coordination and monitoring core, core 2, data management, core 3, data analysis and visualization, core 4, the dissemination of resources, which also includes the website, which I want to make sure we get to at the very end. And we're coordinating our efforts, not just with the networks, but also with the NIMH Data Archive, otherwise known as the NDA, where there's a harmonization of data dictionaries, data upload, and a deployment of analytic tools with the NDA, which will be available to the general research community. And of course, we're working with the steering committees, the NIMH, the FNIH, and the 2 research networks. And in terms of the institutions that are involved in the DPACC, it's the Brigham, it's Mount Sinai, IBM, McLean, Mass General, Northern California Institute for Research and Education, and Stanford University. In terms of core 1, we have Dr. Cheryl Corcoran and Dr. Merritt Kubicki, who co-lead core 1, and the task is really to coordinate with the both networks to select, standardize, and harmonize all variables to create electronic data forms, data capture forms for both networks, and to also be involved in helping to set up the standard operating procedures for all the biomarker domains. The DPACC is also charged with doing the scheduling and providing the minutes for all the meetings and workshops. In addition, we have Inga Winter, our clinical trialist, doing the monitoring and quality assurance tasks with our research assistants, which include tracking recruitment and retention rates, establishing monitoring plans for each network, reviewing source documentation, and confirming the network training for all the biomarker domains. And just in terms of the selection, standardization, and harmonization of variables on the forms, there's 60 forms. There's more than 16,000 variables, and we have 2 electronic data capture systems, one at ProNet and one at Prescient, REDCap and RPMS. And this is just a visualization of this, where the data capture is different, but we harmonize it here with the DPACC, and then it goes down to core 1 does a lot of the work with doing the quality control, and it's an iterative process. The forms are edited, and we have a final harmonization of the forms. With respect to the biomarker domains, here we are coordinating testing of all biomarkers and SOPs with both networks, and we are in the process of doing final mock testing of 5 sites from each of the networks. And ProNet has the green light right now. Prescient will be coming next, as Barnaby said. And we have a team approach for all of the biomarker domains that include, and that's in the green here, the ascertainment and clinical outcomes, the EEG team, the neuroimaging team, the cognitive measures, the genetic fluid biomarkers, the digital biomarkers, and the speech sampling. And the co-leads of these are a mix of the research networks and the DPACC. And I think in some cases we have co-leads from the FNIH. Core 2 is headed by Dr. Sylvan Buiks and Dr. Justin Baker, and it's all about data management. I'm going to describe very briefly the principles that we're following, which are FAIR principles that I'll define in a minute, but it's about data capture systems, which are in place, data dictionaries, which are in progress with the NDA, so that we're all using the same data dictionaries. We're not going to make up any that already exist. We're doing validation and QC, which is ongoing, data processing and visualization, which is ongoing, and data flow and upload to the NDA, which is in place and waiting, and then the data monitoring. In terms of the FAIR principles, it's findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable. And the point here is to use standardized procedures. And the NIH Office of Data Science Strategy has been working over 27 NIH institutes to make sure that biomedical research data across the institutes are adhering to FAIR principles in order to have big data being standardized. And I think we'll hear more about some things like this from Dr. Russell Poldrack later today. But the goal is to have continuous data flow from acquisition to the NDA. Procedures of QC are at every step, and the visual monitoring is going to be through the dashboard, which I'll be talking about in a minute. In terms of the data flow, we're talking about acquisition of multiple kinds of data, from surveys to DNA to speech, but the data capture has to be adjusted to fit. So surveys would go for REDCap, and XNet is a data capture for imaging, and so forth. But then it all gets aggregated with a program called Lockness that Justin Baker's been involved in, and using such things as the brain imaging data structure. In terms of QC and processing, we're using high performance computers to do that, and data sharing and analysis will be done on the NDA network in conjunction with members of the two networks. And then the data gets sent out to the research community. And the data monitoring will be done on, whoops, sorry about that. Okay, I'm going in the wrong direction, sorry. Here's the sort of nitty gritty of the data flow where it comes in from ProNet. Here's your different data capture, the Lockness coming into the staging area, and the same thing for the prescient comes in, goes out to the research community and also to the collaborative space. And here's an example of the data, the dashboard, which is designed to manage all kinds of visual multiple data streams. And here's one example from the Yale mock subject where you can look and see what's in or what's missing, and everything is there. Here's also an example of the EEG, which you can configure in different ways to look at it and do QC. And this is going to be available, as Linda said earlier, for any investigator who has a data use certification. We're also going to be looking to help investigators with the PPRs that are due on a regular basis, where we'll help with coming up with those reports from the data that's collected here on the dashboard. And oops, okay, so I'm going to speed ahead on the data analysis and visualization core, which is headed by O for Pasternak. And basically here, he's been working with investigators also from IBM to look at different ways of looking at the data, with the primary endpoint being conversion, but secondary endpoints being things like psychosocial function, remission of CHR status. And I'm just going to move ahead here quickly because I want to make sure I get to the websites. But the basic approach here, which has just been started more in terms of the data analysis work group, is to really start to move forward with the subtypes of CHR to move them from being a heterogeneous group to being effective predictive models and subtyping that will facilitate useful selection of tools for clinical trials. And this will include also risk calculators similar to what's available for hearts. For the core 4, which is the dissemination, among the things that have been really set up are the new website. And I encourage people to look at the new website. We have a number of users now, and there's a nice interview with our NIMH director, Dr. Joshua Gordon. And on the website also, it's live. You can hit one of the pins to see where one might want to come if it's in close proximity, and it includes, sorry about that. It includes the site name, the principal investigator, and the contact information. And all of that is available on the website. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Marty. That was a very nice overview.